He is the commissioner of the Pac-12. He's Larry Scott back on the program. Commissioner, good morning. Thanks for joining us. What has changed since the last time we spoke?
Well, we announced yesterday a groundbreaking partnership with Quidel, California-based testing company. That was the first to be approved for what people refer to as these point of care rapid result tests, where you basically get a result in 15 minutes. And we think this is a game changer for us because our medical advisors said this is the only way they can be confident that if we're asking student athletes to go practice in a high contact sport like football or basketball, for example, the only way we can be confident we're not encouraging the spread of the virus. That's kind of a standard of care. Our medical advisors and our presidents have felt that we should apply. We're asking student athletes to participate in activity. It's not recommended by the CDC. It's not a socially distanced activity. So there's been a sense we've had, and we've been, on one end of the spectrum here, that there's a moral and ethical responsibility for students to not put them in more harm's way than they'd be in otherwise. And by being able to test a student athlete every day before they go into practice or game, we can have a high degree of confidence that no one in practice or a game has the coronavirus and could spread it. So this is an important step in the path to us reconsidering resumption of play.
How soon is this test going to be available?
So we, signed and announced the agreement yesterday. We're going to have all the materials sent to our schools by the end of this month. And so by the beginning of October, we're going to be able to start the testing. And we're also doing a research project for the company on how young, mostly asymptomatic, healthy student athletes, what's the impact of being able to test daily? Because our universities do a lot of research. Are working on some of these vexing challenges with COVID, and in athletics, we're going to have a big test case. And there's a thesis that this kind of daily testing with rapid results could also be the answer to return to school for K through 12 kids, return to work, and society and the economy getting back to normal. So there's another component of that too. But to answer your question, October will be in kind of full testing mode.
If the test goes well, is the Pac-12 in business playing football this fall?
I believe we will be. Whether it's in the fall or January 1st remains to be seen. This isn't unfortunately our only challenge. We've got 6 schools currently, Dan. The 4 California schools, UCLA, USC, Stanford, and Cal, and 2 of our Oregon schools, Oregon and Oregon State, that don't currently have government approvals to have contact practice. I know the approvals have been given for pro sports, but not for college sports. So we'll need some help from the county's public health officials to bless this and say it's okay. Now, I think what we announced yesterday is going to be an important piece of that. I think the public health officials are keenly interested in what our plans and protocols are. So I'm hopeful that we will get what we need.
But as it is now, you're not going to play fall football.
No, as it is now, we had made a decision several weeks ago.
And this doesn't change that.
It could. It doesn't yet. Again, we don't have government approvals yet. Yeah. But if we get the government approvals and we can implement this testing, certainly we could. Basketball, it looks like the NCAA is going to change the start date of the basketball season from November 10th to probably November 25th or later. So that's probably the first decision we got to take. Can we revisit the decision to not play basketball before January 1st and maybe start the season at the same date or close to when the rest of the country is? And then on a parallel path, we've got to weigh up, does it make sense to start the football season in late November, early December, or does it make sense to, get through finals for the student athletes, get through the Christmas holidays and start in January? One of our considerations is going to be, trying to move in tandem with the Big Ten if we can. It's a little unclear where they are and what they're going to do, despite me talking to their commissioner every day. But, if the 2 of our conferences can move together, we've got pretty exciting vision of playing, Big Ten, Pac-12 seasons, finishing with a Pac-12 championship, Big Ten championship, and then playing a Rose Bowl and other bowl games at the end of the season, even if it's an early spring game.
So Ohio State or Michigan or whoever in the Big Ten, Wisconsin leading this charge of maybe coming back this fall, but you're talking about trying to be in conjunction with the Big Ten in the spring or winter, spring, not fall, correct?
Yeah. Well, we've laid out that, vision that there would be benefits in us moving in tandem. Obviously, we don't control that. As has been clear, each one of the conferences makes their own decisions. So, look, we've got to stay nimble and flexible, and is a dynamic situation. I think it'll evolve over the next couple of weeks. I think there'll be more clarity on the Big Ten side. I know they're hopeful to get access to the kind of daily rapid result testing that we have, which again, real breakthrough in terms of medical community, at least in the Big Ten and Pac-12, being comfortable with a resumption of play. And if we can move together, that would be best. If we can't, we can't. We can only control what we control.
But also, if you're looking at the presidents had a vote in the Big Ten, and I don't know what role the commissioner had, Kevin Warren had. The same with the Pac-12. Are you going to have your presidents voting on this, or do you decide on if there's going to be fall sports, basketball, if there's going to be winter sports, spring sports? Who decides?
It works the same way in all of our leagues. The presidents ultimately decide. They're the board.
Okay.
The conference. So, we're the chief executives. We're expected to do the groundwork, tee up, make a recommendation. But at the end of the day, they decide.
How much pressure is on you?
It's a tremendous amount of pressure. I mean, there's been so much anxiety and uncertainty. We're responsible for a lot of people, whether it's in our conference office, at the universities, and then 7,000 student athletes. And every one of those groups has been dealing in a world of anxiety and uncertainty. For our student athletes, they're the ones I'm concerned most about. I mean, being a student athlete, being able to participate in your sport is an important part of like who you are and your identity and going to school. And so it's been heart-wrenching to see these opportunities be postponed for these student athletes who are eager to play. But at the same time, they expect us as the adults in the room, and their parents do. And I've spoken to their parents too on Zoom calls, and others, expect us to have their health and well-being in mind, not just for the season, but, for the rest of their life too.
Yeah, I thought that the Pac-12 was dead. You guys are breathing, some life back into this sports program. You guys were quiet, and I didn't know if that was a good thing. The Big Ten is quiet right now, and I don't know if that's a good thing, but it feels like that when you guys are quiet, that things are happening behind the scenes there, and I think that was the case here.
Yeah, well, we've certainly been working hard at this, trying to solve for these things. We've been more measured than other leagues. We've let the science and data guide us. There's a lot of emotion around this too, but we've tried to block that out. And on the West Coast, I think our universities have athletics. I think in a pretty healthy perspective. They see it part of the broader community of our universities, and we're going to follow the health and medical guidelines and not make exceptions. So that's why we had to wait until the kind of thing we announced yesterday, which changes the game for us, because we can look any constituency in the eye and say, we are not putting your son and daughter at risk.
But how do you explain this, though, Commissioner, that the SEC and the Big 12 and the ACC are playing through this? Same information, I'm going to guess.
It's same information, and look, there's a lot of pressure on everyone, and there's different priorities in different parts of the country. So, I respect whatever decisions they're making. They're under different pressures, but I think college football is a microcosm of what's going on in our country. The same data and science is out there, and governors and other officials are making different decisions about mask wearing, whether bars should be open or not, whether K through 12 should be open or not. So, it's not a great moment in our country in that regard, that the same science and data is being applied differently, and college football is not an exception.
Yeah, that's what I've said to as many people as possible. Why can't we get the Pac-12 commissioners and have their medical teams get together on a Zoom call just to be able to exchange ideas, Larry? This doesn't make sense. And it's... Yeah. I know that there's priorities that are different in the South than they are in the West and then the Midwest. I get all of that. But, man, we can't play political games with this. We want to play games, not political games.
I agree. What I will tell you is there is an amazing collaboration between the conferences, including the medical advisors. They speak every week. So the information's being shared. It's at the decision-making level. You asked before, who makes the decision? It's the presidents and chancellors of universities. And if you're part of a public university, you've got a higher authority you work for too, right? Your state.
Yeah.
So just that has to be kept in mind. The commissioners, our medical advisors are very, very collaborative. We've tried to move together, but when the decisions get made, they're made by the leaders of our universities.
But if all goes well, Commissioner, when is the Pac-12 playing football?
Well, right now, I've got high degree of confidence we're playing in January.
Okay.
It's possible because of this announcement we could play sooner. So I think the significance of yesterday's announcement and having access to this testing is, I can look you in the eye virtually and tell you I've got a high degree of confidence we're playing just on a postponed basis. We're going to have a full, exciting season for our student athletes. Well, I shouldn't say full as in playing 12 games. I think it will be abbreviated like it is in other conferences. What's now also possible is we could start earlier than January, but that's going to depend on some things outside our control, like public health authorities and making the decision, does it make sense to start at the end of the year or just wait to the beginning of the year?
How are you doing? Fully recovered from coronavirus?
Thanks for asking. Yep. That was just another layer of anxiety. I went through it. My whole family got it. It's spread very quickly through our household, but thankfully fully recovered several weeks ago and got my stamina back and back to working out. But there's a lot of unknowns about this. Certainly with all the members of my family, it affected everyone a little differently.
Good to visit with you. Have a good weekend and good luck with this.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate you having me.
That's Larry Scott, Pac-12 commissioner.